Many of us will probably ignore this conversation, but the question still needs to be asked of saying, what happens if you go before I do? I've asked this question a million times to myself, and I've also asked a million times to my partner, and I'm saying, by the way, I'm married, so I'm happily married. I've got a wife, and this question is kind of like posed between the two of us to say, what happens? You know, the reality is that we are living in the space of the pandemic. We have seen more people die than before. And the question that we should be asking ourselves here is it our cleverness that we are not able actually to not go before our other partner? Or is the other way around? And if that question is asked and we avoid the question, that means that maybe we're not prepared in thinking and in doing. But what happens if you go before I do and we are in property investments? So I want to talk to that a little bit and I'll dive into it. But the question of what happens, we've heard so many mysterious stories. I'll give you a story of a guy who came from KwaZulu-Natal. I worked with this guy, and basically what happened was he died at a young age. I think it was about 29. But basically when he came to Johannesburg, he came down to Johannesburg, and at the time, his mother was his beneficiary. He got involved with someone, they had a baby, and the two of them, the mother and this girl, didn't get along. But guess what happened? When he signed up at the bank at the time as an employee, he put his mother as a beneficiary. And then eventually, when he passed on, which was round about 9 years later or so, something like that, I think he was being paid round about just below $1 million. Now, this money was supposedly should go to his family. In this case, his family would have been maybe his mother, his child, and there's his child, who's young. The child was around about 3 years old or so. Now, that child has got years ahead of him. But now, the beneficiary was the mother. And because the mother and the daughter didn't get along, the daughter-in-law, the mother gave the daughter the middle finger and she says, nah, this money belongs to me. And that boy never saw the money. Now, the question here is, let's assume if this guy had properties, then what? I want to pose that question there. Now, I want to give you my own testimonial, or should I say my own story about seeing my mother growing up. You all know that I grew up with a foster mom and a foster father. My father went first. And when that happened, my parents were married in what is called a customary law. So the customary law, her brothers at one point actually wanted to take over my father's possessions at a point. And with that, it became a family wrangle because there was no will. And I know you're already saying, but TJ, they should have had a will. Yes, they should. It is one way of protecting that. But what if you're a property investor? Do you now say that, well, I leave this property that I've invested with so-and-so or with so-and-so? Well, I know that there's a better structures. What do I mean by structures? There's better ways of managing this outside the will. And it can be something that is living, something that you do not need to go back and do. You do it once and that's it. So, let me go back again to the point of what happens if you go before I do. So it's a question that we need to be asking both parties in reverse of the other. So maybe in some instances, actually the other one is the breadwinner. So that question needs to be asked more heavily on the breadwinner, right? Because if that person goes before the other one does, then what? Right. Now, coming back to my mother's story. Well, they didn't take everything because somewhere along the line, there was some form of documentations, which was some kind of a will and things like that, and the properties was left to my mother. Right. However, Like anyone else, there were some wills and there was also some policies that were paid out. And what happened to the policy money that was paid out? Well, in less than 2 years, 3 years, the money was finished. Now, leaving money, or should I say leaving policies, is that bad? No, it's not. However, if you are in property investment, this is now the difference. If you're in property investment, then you might now need to think about how best do I structure everything? How best do I buy my properties so that as and when I'm investing, the next generation, if I go before my partner does go, how does she or how does he manage this going forward? So number one, maybe do you need to buy them in a company? I haven't heard of companies that die, right? Maybe do you need to buy this in a trust? I haven't heard trusts that die. I know quite a lot of guys that have been taken to school with other families via trusts, trust funds, trust babies. We know this. So how different are we from those people that create trusts, that create companies to make sure that the next generation is solidly, nicely looked after? So the question here is, what happens if I go before you do? The question now is, hold on. If you're a property investor, maybe you started investing just buying properties in your name. Is that the right way of doing it? Well, maybe not. But from where I stand, it's the wrong way. Okay? Now, if we were to go and now say we want to do this in a company, is that the right way? Maybe not. Now, what if we say we want to buy in a trust? Is that the right way? Maybe not. It depends really on what you are trying to do as an individual. But if we're doing it for the purposes solely to say, I want to protect what I am building today so that when I go, the people that I'm leaving behind, they can continue with the legacy, then you want to understand the structures in which you're going to do this. Because if you are to go before your partners go, or you're the one who's left, then you want to make sure that all of these things are in place. Yes, we can have life policies. Yes, we can have all of these other things. But remember, you're in property investments. So, over and above that, my team and I will put in a short class together. Within this short class is to give you different scenarios in which you can be able to see, when do you buy properties in your name? Is it bad? No, it's not. Is it good to buy in a company? It is good. Maybe not. In what circumstances can you start utilizing the different structures? If we are taking the departure point of, you need to protect whatever that you are buying today as a property investor to make sure that into the future you are well protected and those that you loved ones will continue to inherit what you've put together, then the answer lies within you attending the class. It's virtual. You can attend from wherever you are. Besides attending from wherever you are, this training class is always available. So you can click on the link in the description. You will be able to see that link. And if you miss the class, you can still be able to attend it. It's pre-recorded, so you can be able to jump onto it, ask questions. We'll be able to answer those questions to you. Once you figure out what you want to do with the decisions that you want to take for your life, for your partner, for your family, then you can go in to implement some of these things. My name is TJ Taurai Jack, and I'll be glad if you can join me within the class. But if you're not able to join me into the class and the date is gone, the information is still readily available. You can jump on it. It is a full day of learning, right? And you can consume that, and you can ask the hard questions to yourself, to your partner, and you can start putting in the rightful education and structures for you. I know that when I say structures, you're kind of like getting confused, like, what is that? But that's why the education is there. Jump on it. I will see you in the class.